Hi there, Becky here from 168 Fitness. This week I'm continuing with my running advice and helping you to achieve your running goals in 2019. Last week I started off giving you the first step to achieving your goals. If you didn't watch last week's video or you didn't do the homework, then I suggest you stop this video and go and watch that video to recap so that you know how to get started. And then when you've done last week's homework, come back and you'll find out how to take the next step to achieving your running goals. So those that have done the homework, well done, because from homework from last week, well done, because it is always the hardest step is that first step, getting out the door, especially when it comes to running, because there's so many things that you are thinking, perhaps good and bad. Do you really want to be able to do it? You want to burn those calories, you want to get fitter, you want to achieve those goals, but it's so cold outside, or it's so dark, or it's icy. We had particularly bad weather last week, or you think that you are going to not be able to breathe, think that it's going to be too hard, etc, etc. So well done for getting started and taking that first step, and hopefully it wasn't so bad and actually you do want to keep going and take the next step this week, which I am guessing you do because you're watching this video. So what I'm going to do this week is to give you the next step, and I'm going to try and help every single one of you, because you're all going to come in at different levels, and that's absolutely fine, because you're going to, if you are brand new to running and haven't been doing any other exercise, then of course you're not going to be perhaps as fit and have as good a stamina as someone who perhaps has run before, last year or sometime in the past, or has been doing other kinds of exercises and has sort of a base level of fitness already. But that's absolutely fine. You don't need to, not everyone's the same, you don't need to be able to run a certain, for a certain length of time or distance in order to progress and to be able to keep being consistent with the running and achieve your goals. You can start at any level, and I would like to be able to help you to reach your goals regardless of where you're starting from. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about two different sort of training progressions for week 2 of achieving your running goals. And the first one, we'll start off with those that are pretty much brand new to running and perhaps could run for either sort of 30 seconds, a minute, couple of minutes maybe, those sort of levels last week when you first did that run, because last week's homework was to see how far or how long you could run non-stop, and so this week I want you to try and progress that a little bit. And if you, for example, could run for 30 seconds non-stop last week, then I would like you to try and progress that to 45 seconds non-stop this week. If you could run for a minute last week, then I would like you to try and do 90 seconds non-stop this week. And for example, if you could run for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, that sort of thing, then I would like you to try and do sort of 3 minutes, like an extra minute on each of those, 3 minutes, 4 minutes or 5 minutes. So you're trying to add on a bit. So adding on sort of 30 seconds to a minute, depending on just really how you feel. Don't try and push yourself too much and try and go too far, because I want you to enjoy it. I don't want you to feel like it's too much of a stretch. I want you to feel like you want to do this next session, but then you want to keep going and doing the next session and the next session. So don't try and jump ahead too soon, but do try and progress a little bit, because you are going to need to progress in order to achieve those running goals in the future, but it's also going to feel really good to know that you're moving forwards and not just sort of staying static with those running times. So building on what you did last week, adding on a little bit of time. If you feel like you can repeat those intervals, so if you could run for, if you're doing sort of 90-second intervals this week, and you feel like you could do 90 seconds and then walk for a bit, and then 90 seconds walk for a bit, to fill a time of maybe 20 to 30 minutes, great, that's absolutely fantastic and the best way of building up your endurance. It's absolutely fine to have a walk in between because you're just getting your breath back, you're letting your legs recover a little bit, and then you're going again, and that's building up your stamina, and it's going to help you to get to those 5k goals in the future perhaps. If you can run for a bit longer, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or you're sort of working towards 5-minute goals, then you may only want to do sort of a couple of those intervals with some walking in between. And that's absolutely fine, because if you think about it, you're still doubling the time that you can run for. If you do 5 minutes, walk for a bit, and 5 minutes, that's fantastic because you're still running for 10 minutes. You're just having a little bit of a walk in between. And as your fitness progresses, then you will be able to build up and need less walking recovery in between, which is fantastic. And then you're going to get to that 5k goal in the future or beyond that. So see what you can do this week, and it is a bit difficult sometimes for me to advise because everyone's at different levels, so it's difficult for me to advise in a general way, but what I am happy to do is to give you a personal, some personal advice on how to progress. So you can tell me where you've come in at and what level you currently, what times you're currently running at, and I can give you some personal advice in order to progress going forward, and I'm happy to do that. What I will just say is if you started off and perhaps you were able to come in at a sort of running for 30 minutes non-stop, which is absolutely fantastic, and if you're pretty new to running but you've maybe been doing some other fitness and you've got a good base level of fitness, then that's great that you can come in at that level. At that point you've got kind of a decision to make whether or not you want to try and get faster or whether you want to try and run for longer and build up your endurance and the distances that you can cover. So you have to make that choice. It's up to you, and there's no right and wrong on that. You can do a bit of both, but sometimes people want to be able to just run sort of steady pace, but building up to being able to run for an hour maybe. And some people prefer shorter distances and want to be able to cover a longer distance within that 30 minutes. So either is fine, but those two goals will differ in terms of what advice I give you. So if that applies to you, if you've come in at a really good level, you can run 30 minutes non-stop, but you're not sure what to do next, then I suggest you get in touch with me and I give you some personal advice, because you will need to decide where you want to go with your running goals in the future, and then my advice will differ according to that. So just to recap for this week, because it is a little bit more complicated, you're trying to just progress on what you did last week. If you could run for a minute non-stop, then try and run for 90 seconds. If you could run for 3 minutes non-stop last week, try and aim for 4 minutes this week, and then the next step after that would be to try and do that repeatedly. So maybe doing 90 seconds walk, 90 seconds running, then a walk, then 90 seconds running, and repeating that. And then if you could run for 4 minutes non-stop, you might want to walk for a bit, and then 4 minutes non-stop, walk for a bit, etc. For a set period of time, whatever time you've got available to you on that day, that would be great. But the main thing is that you're increasing that interval of running so that you're increasing your endurance and going to get a step closer to achieving those running goals. So well done for all the hard work so far. I'm going to be back next week with some more top tips on achieving your goals in general, your health, fitness and weight loss goals in 2019. If you've got any questions, please do get in touch. I'd love to help. I'll see you next week.